But you want to know something though, and this can kind of touch on both of them right now. Kurt Cobain did not like Eddie Vedder
No, Eddie Vedder has gone on record and said that Kurt Cobain did not like me. So
because he thought Pearl Jam was fake grunge,
yeah,
and he later apologized. But yeah, but you know what? Pearl Jam, unlike Nirvana, I think they kind of embraced their mainstream success.
at one point or another, they actually did. It's funny. We're gonna get to another. I want to get to another band in a minute, in a little bit, that had tons of success in the '90s, but so we're gonna touch on that in a sec. But Pearl Jam, it's funny. Their debut album is 10 with all of their most recognizable, most successful songs on it. 10 about this or not, but I might not have told you this, but basically, I was having this conversation with my dad about how there's a feud between Motley Crue and Pearl Jam right now. I'm not sure if you heard about this. Eddie Vedder came out recently and said, "Hey, out of all," because they were huge after hair metal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Eddie Vedder said that, hey, that whole Sunset Strip, girls, kicks my, like all that, like type of said, like it's not for him. Whereas Pearl Jam's 10 was like the complete opposite of that and became like mainstream. What he meant by that was he brought up the song "Girls by Motley Crue," which we talked about it last week on. But the song "Girls" is about like strip clubs and sex left and right. It's about that. That's what that song is about. It's about, like, if you listen to it, they literally, Motley Crue listed off like tons and tons and tons of strip clubs that in the song and stuff like that. Whereas Eddie Vedder's and the lyric writing on 10 is some of the best lyric writing I've heard in general, because it's dark, deep, dark stuff. It's not the same style of writing where it's like, oh, flashy, glam, whatever. It's more serious lyric writing. Like in one of the songs, I think it's on Alive, or no, it's on Black. I'm thinking on Pearl Jam's 10. Eddie Vedder finds out that his dad, it's not Alive, on the song Alive, he found out that his dad was not his biological dad. It's actually his stepfather. He found that out. I think it was in Alive. That's the meaning of that song. Whereas that's a completely different style from, Kickstart My Heart and Gross. What are you gonna say, Bill?
Yeah, wait. Alive. That's like, oh, I'm still alive. That song.
Yep. Yeah, that one. That one's about Eddie Vedder's father not being his real biological father.
Yeah, or the song, which is probably one of my favorite Pearl Jam songs, the song Jeremy. Jeremy's walking class today. That song.
Yeah,
you know what that's about, right?
I love What is that? I love that song. But what is it about?
I think it's about a kid who's gonna shoot up his class, or who shoots himself in front of his class.
I don't remember that part personally, but I mean, I could be wrong. I haven't looked up the lyrics to Jeremy in a long time.
Yeah, but anyway, but no, what you were saying, like the girls, it really shows you like the difference between between hair metal and grunge. Hair metal was it's nothing but a good time.
Yep.
And girls, it was just like, oh God, Vinny is going to kill me for saying this. He really is.
With that, Bill.
Hair metal is a big stinking hunk of 80s cheese.
It's all about the party, really, if you think about it.
I love 80s hair music, but it's just cheesy, fun music.
Yeah, you don't go to it for like deep lyrical thoughts,
Yeah, but grunge, like I said, it's based on anger. It's based on angst. It's based on,
like
it's
rage
based on anger. It's based on angst. It's based on serious topics, like with Pearl Jam, with,
Yeah.
Like, the song Alive, when he finds out that the man who he thought was his biological father is actually his stepfather, you got to admit that's, I don't want to say traumatic, but it's pretty earth shattering.
Yeah, it is. It 100% is. And truthfully, going back to what I was trying to say before, but between like Motley Crue and Pearl Jam, like going at it. Honestly, my own personal opinion, if you would ask me, and hey, if you presented this article to me and say I'm more of a Pearl Jam fan personally, because I'm of like the opinion that Motley Crue is very much overrated. Personally, I mean, I like 3 songs by them, and that's about it. I'm not like the biggest Crue guy, I would say. And plus we could talk about this for a sec too. But I mean, basically, and then Nikki Sixx came out and said, "Oh well, Pearl Jam is boring. You don't have much intellect, in my opinion, if you're going to call a song about your stepfather being your biological father being your stepfather boring. That's a pretty serious topic. It's not boring personally, but that's my interpretation. I'm not a big Crue guy.
Well, because like I said, JT, with that song, like real life hypothetical here, how would you react if you found out that your biological father, your biological mother, was actually not your biological mother or father?
I'd be angry, and I would probably make some music like Pearl Jam.
And it's the thing is, it's like, because again, Motley Crue, they were in that, girls, just having a good time. And well,
yeah,
grunge was, listen, I may not be the biggest grunge fan, but, I would say of the grunge bands, I probably like Pearl Jam the most.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not a huge Pearl Jam fan. Like, if you invited me, JT, to see them in concert, I'd go.
Okay. Good to know, just saying.
Oh, you're taking that note, aren't you?
Next time they're in the Garden, we'll go.
Bill and JT, live at the Garden.
Yeah, Super Review Show Instagram, podcasting, Pearl Jam. What are you talking about?
Eddie Vedder, come on.
Yes, exactly.
But anyway, yeah. But you know what? There is one thing that kind of makes me scratch my head about Mr. Vedder.
What's that?
He's good friends with Roger Waters.
Oh, we might have to not have him on the podcast after all. Because I mean, aside from like what we said about Pink Floyd in the past, Roger Waters is not a good person whatsoever. We both know that for sure.
You know what they say? There's an old quote. It goes like this: "A man is judged by the company he keeps." But
that is true.
But anyway, getting back to the Motley Crue, like, it's just like, a grunge touch on those serious topics. It was coming out of those, because I was watching a thing on YouTube about how grunge killed hair metal. I want to say it was Bret Michaels or someone else who said, grunge just was so angry. And it was just like, I hate everything. I hate my parents. I hate the world.
Yeah. And a lot of the songs on Pearl Jam's 10 amplify that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but you know what my favorite Pearl Jam song is?
You said Jeremy, right?
Well, that's one of them. But you know what it is also?
What?
Can't find a better man.
No way, that's my favorite too.
JT, guess what that means?
What does that mean?
1, 2, 3.
We swiped right.
While.
It's been a little while since we swiped right, my guy. But Better Man by Pearl Jam. My God. Great song.
Can't find a better man.
So good. So good.
Can't find a better man. Can you find a better man with Eddie Vedder?
Eddie Vedder, by the way, I'm a big Eddie Vedder fan. I love him. I think he's a very talented guy, truthfully. So, and one more thing I want to touch on, as far as like the hair metal grunge debate. Personally, and this is just my own 2 cents. It's funny. John Bon Jovi was once asked something about how like when grunge came along and how it cannonballed so many hair metal bands, it catapulted so many of them like to it took like big hits and stuff like that. How like they survived grunge as a band, Bon Jovi did. How they evolved into other things as well, which is I applaud John for doing 100% no matter what. But I will say this, John Bon Jovi said something very interesting. He said, if you can find this interview on YouTube, look it up. It's in the description link for one of our videos. I think it's called "How Bon Jovi Survived Grunge." But he basically said when grunge came along and it rewrote the system, it changed the rules and all this stuff, the best remained. And this is a big thing of tonight. Because think of all the grunge bands that got signed on the coattails of Nirvana and Pearl Jam, and they're no longer here. Soundgarden is no longer here. Nirvana is no longer here. The only really big band from that era that's still around today is Pearl Jam, which I applaud. I love Pearl Jam. But I will say, it's funny how they were talking about how the next Bon Jovi album after 1988's New Jersey was Keep the Faith, which was more of a socially conscious Bon Jovi, but not chasing grunge. He was not chasing the fads and the fashion. Motley Crue released an album that sounded like a grunge album. Kiss did the same thing. Def Leppard did the same thing too. Guns N' Roses and Bon Jovi did not do that, and they thrived in the 90s with Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 and other stuff like that too.
Well, because also,
to be honest, yeah, go ahead.
No, because also, here's a fun fact: is Axl Rose and Kurt Cobain hated each other. I'm starting to think Kurt Cobain hated a lot of people.
I'm sure he did, but let's just be real about that.
But anyway, no, Axl Rose and Kurt Cobain hated each other because they got into a whatchamacallit? They got into a fight at the VMAs.
Yep, that's right.
Because there was a whole thing that Guns N' Roses offered Nirvana to open for them on tour, and Nirvana said no. And at the VMAs backstage, Kurt was there with Courtney Love and Axl Rose. Courtney Love said something to mouthed off to Axl Rose, and then Axl Rose said, "Hey, Kurt, keep your wife in line." And then that erupted into a fight. And punches were thrown.
Yeah, Axl Rose. I mean, I saw Guns N' Roses live. They're very much like they were the bad boys rock in the 80s and 90s, but for sure. But Axl Rose was he's changed a little bit. But he was a terrible in the 80s. He was terrible. That's a whole other conversation for another time.
Yeah, but anyway, but because I think because bands like Bon Jovi and Guns N' Roses, because they stayed true to themselves. They didn't try to be like another grunge band.
Which I found to be really, that's one of the reasons why I love Bon Jovi to this day. That's one of the reasons why I love Guns N' Roses and other bands, like even prior to, like even Def Leppard to some extent survived grunge. I mean, they could sell it anywhere too. They did make a grunge album called Slang, and I was not a fan of it, but then they came back with Euphoria, and that was great. But John Bon Jovi, I know we're getting off on a tangent here, but John Bon Jovi said, he has always tried to not follow fads and fashions. He wants to chart his own path. That's what he did. But bottom line though, the whole grunge hair metal debate thing, truthfully, that could be another video, but honestly, I'm a fan of Pearl Jam. I like Nirvana, and there are plenty of other bands that got signed on there. Like Allison, we're not going to go into all depth with them because I don't know. I'm not super familiar with them, but Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Jane's Addiction, they kind of fit that like mid to late '90s vibe of like early to mid grunge alternative rock vibes as well, which is cool. So
yeah, because you know what? Speaking of whatchamacallit, of Alice in Chains, since we're not going to get really to much detail, I do have a funny story though. When I was away last month,
what's up?
When I was away last month, okay, I'm going to be honest. I was at a casino. There, I was honest with you folks. And my dealer, I was at a roulette table, and the dealer, I'm playing roulette, and he's like going, and he's like handing out the chips. He's going, wow, 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 wow. He's going, wow, 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 wow. So he's like, anyone who's not a Gen Xer is not going to know that song. I'm like, it's Pearl Jam. I go, no, it's not Pearl Jam. I'm like, okay, I know it's not Nirvana. I go, no, it's not Nirvana, but I won't count that against you. He said, I'll give you 2 more guesses. I'm like, damn it. Like, I'm thinking, I've heard that song before. Like, have you ever had that, JT, where you're like, I know that song.
Yep.
I know what that song is. I've heard it. I just can't think of the name of the band.
Right.
And then I'm like, literally, and he's dealing, and like, it's like, wow, wow, and it's going through my head. I'm like, damn it, I know I've heard this song before. And then he goes, that's why they call it grunge. I'm like, yeah, okay. So then I'm done at the table. Like, okay, I'm done. Like, okay, buddy, have a good day. And if you find out the name of that song, come find me. And like, literally, when I was prepping for this the other day, and this song came up, I'm like, Man in the Box by Alice in Chains. That's what the song is.
Yep.
Man in the Box by Alice in Chains. So, Albert, if you're watching, yes, I found out the song. And you always put me in the nut house because I had that song running through my head for days.
Oh my God.
Thanks, Albert.
Thanks, Albert. Any other comments at all for grunge and how the 90s turned out for hair metal and stuff like that before we go into our next artist?
You say we're not really getting into Soundgarden or all the rest of them. You said
I'm not. Full disclosure, I like them. I'm just not super familiar with them.
Yeah,
honestly.
me neither. I know the Black Hole Sun, won't you come wash away the pain.
And Chris Cornell was a genius as well. I mean, he was a great guy.
Yeah, he's gone way too soon.
Very soon.
And yeah, but you know what I noticed when I do an impersonation of all grunge artists, I make them all sound like Eddie Vedder. Have you noticed that?
And Eddie Vedder set the tone, man.
I make them all sound like Eddie Vedder.
And Eddie Vedder's I love you, Eddie Vedder. Just letting you know, he's incredible.
Yeah, but yeah. So no, I really got nothing else to say about grunge.